Jonathan, I kind of see you as like an OG in this world of sound healing and humming, and I think you and Andy are one of the few people responsible for bringing sound healing and humming from its esoteric domain and spirituality into the mainstream some. And I think nowadays, like when you tell people about humming, they think it's almost too simple or childlike to be of importance and have a lot of power, and it's a very potent healing mechanism that we have. So yeah, it doesn't get a lot of airtime, and I think you and Andy, we have a lot to thank you for. So for putting the work out.
Well, James, it certainly has grown a whole lot more since the humming effect first manifested in 2017. I'm seeing a whole lot more people picking it up. And once they get it and they sort of feel the experience of the hum,
Mhm.
it becomes a totally different mechanism. One of the great challenges, I have to tell you, the humming effect may have been, even though it's a small, thin book, it's pretty simple, it may have been one of the more challenging of all my books that I wrote because it was so important and difficult to really bring to light the power of the hum. Because, all right, so bottom line, Andy and the last time we were teaching at the Royal College of Music in London, pretty large audience on the weekend. We had about 500 people, and it was a follow up to uh, a presentation we'd done the year before. And I said, okay, how many of you are doing these exercises that we taught, which were basically working with the vowels as mantras and stuff like that, and really excellent exercises? And out of this group, a handful of people raised their hands. I was going, okay. And afterwards, I said, Andy, we've got to come up with some sort of sound that everybody can make that's not going to be too intimidating to them, that doesn't take much time or anything. We looked at each other and went, hmm. So we
Right.
began to investigate the uh, the power of the hum, and the more we got into it, the more important it became. And yet, the more challenging it was, because how are we going to present such a seemingly goofy sound to people and realize that it may be the original primordial sacred sound of creation? If I'm going to, do a drum roll and go, hey. And so we made the first chapter, if you like, peer reviewed information about the power of the hum.
Right.
And this is great because then people took it seriously, which is a whole topic of why is it necessary for people to have scientific validation of something? Can they not feel and experience it themselves? Is it only necessary? Science says that this works and this doesn't work. Oh, I believe this. I'm not going to believe that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's
I
very.
ask that as an open question because it's just amazing how people fluctuate to something that science proves. And as you may or may not know, or at least believe, science is continuously shifting in terms of its discoveries.
Mhm.
And what we believe one year about something may true or turn out to be not true the next year. So, like, let's, if you like, feel what works for ourselves.
Oh, totally. Yeah, for sure. I heard you talk actually recently about how you got into this whole world of sound healing, and it was kind of a moment many years ago when you were playing music with a band, and you kind of had this epiphany that I thought was rather beautiful and profound, and I thought if you could share that story with us.
It's 45 years ago.
Wow.
Ah, I was playing in a rock and roll band in a seaside bar in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and came in from a break, strapped on one of those strats over there or whatnot,
Right.
began playing and looking out at the audience, becoming aware that the ambience of the club was one of negativity and violence. Now, no doubt the alcohol and the other drugs that people are imbibing were helping induce this level of negativity, a lot of anger and whatnot. But I also knew that the music that I was creating at this particular time was helping, if you like, feed the field. And I thought, gee, what if music can be used to make people feel better? Just that thought. What if that could be the purpose of music?
Hmm.
And that shifted about 10 degrees in about a week and became, what if sound can be used to heal? And from there, doors just opened up. I took a workshop with a lady by the name of Sarah Benson. And I remember I was placed in the middle of a circle, James, and people were intoning my name. They were sounding my name and encoding energy on it. And I was holding one of these, a quartz crystal. I closed my eyes. I was taken out of my body. I was taken to this amethyst pyramid in the woods. When I came back, I said, gee, I got to find out more about these, and I got to find out more about sound. And that's continued for about 45 years.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
I want to suggest that what was very interesting was the particular genre of music that I was playing then was kind of punk rock new wave, which was not necessarily my great desire for playing. I was more in the Hendrix Beatles fashion, but at the time in clubs, that was what was necessary, and that was fine. But I don't want to give people the impression that any one genre of music is bad. Everything has its potential and its use, but I think it's really important to be aware of that phenomena. And for a while, I actually put down my guitar and didn't play guitar for about 5 years because so many people, oh, rock and roll is the devil's music and all that stuff. And I was like, no, man, that's ultimately it came to me, no, because like on a level, so the most love encoded music on the planet was from these guys, you know.
Right.
And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the
Hmm.
energy that we put into the music that helps create the outcome of the music and the sound. And that's one of my, I think, really important things that I brought down to the planet was this formula, which is frequency plus intent equals healing, meaning that the vibrations of the sound, the frequency, plus the intent, the energy that you put into the sound creates the outcome of the sound.
Yeah, that's kind of something I want to get into. If you wouldn't mind briefly just giving an overview of like the four pillars of sound healing, and then we
Be,
can jump off from there.
be delighted.
Yeah.
The first one is everything is vibration. From the electrons moving around the nucleus of an atom to planets and distant galaxies moving around their suns. They're all in a state of vibration, and conceptually, they're creating a sound. And this includes our body, every organ, every bone, every tissue, every part of our body is in a state of vibration. And when we're in a state of health, we say we're in sound health, and we're like this overall orchestra that's playing the symphony of the self. But what happens if the second violin player loses their sheet music? They begin to play out of tune, out of harmony. Pretty soon, the entire string section is off. Pretty soon, the actual orchestra sounds off. And this is, if you like, akin to a part of our body vibrating out of its normal, healthy, resonant frequency. And we say it's vibrating out of ease, out of harmony. It is dis-ease. So the idea of using sound for healing is simply to put the body, brain, etheric fields, whatever, back into its normal, healthy, resonant frequency. So that's everything is vibration. I just cut that into 30 seconds for you. It is the first chapter of my book, The Seven Secrets of Sound Healing, and really worth further investigation, but we'll
Uh,
move on. The second one is intent is powerful. After I had that revelation about, gee, what if sound could be used for healing? I began collecting information about using sound for healing from all, it became my, if you like, mission in life. And I then went to Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I got a master's degree researching the uses of sound and music for healing. And in my master's paper, I had about a collection of papers about yohai that were different people's systems of using sound for healing, for resonating the chakras, for resonating the different organs. And my family, mostly doctors, father brother, grandfather, all medical doctors. And I thought, oh, I had a really well developed left brain at the time. I thought, okay, I'm going to put this all together and create sort of Goldman's encyclopedia of sound healing or whatnot, dictionary of sound healing, whatever it was. You could look at the condition, find the frequency that people use, and everything would be all set. Unfortunately, as I began correlating all this information, the information did not align. You'd have spiritual master X using a particular set of mantras to resonate the chakras, and spiritual master Y using a completely different set of mantras. Or you'd have Dr. A using a particular frequency for an organ, Dr. B using a completely different set of frequencies for the same organ, or same frequencies for a different organ. And I'm sitting there in a chair facing a computer that is waiting for me to feed in information. And this is way back in the early 80s, so it had something called a DOS operating system. Dark screen with an amber cursor, the letters, and this thing is flashing off and on. It kind of looked like gold against black, actually. It's kind of cool. And I'm going, oh my God, what am I going to do? How can I do this? Oh my God. And this inner voice says, it is not only the frequency of the sound that creates its effect, it is also the intention of the person making and receiving the sound. And I wrote down frequency plus intent equals healing. And I thought, wow, this is a major revelation. And it was such a major revelation that I tried to talk to these different doctors and scientists. Say, hey, have you ever thought of the importance of intentionality who are working with music and sound? And they looked at me like I was a man from another planet. I might be, but they weren't supposed to know that. And since then, you get people like Bruce Lipton doing the biology of belief, Dr. Joe Dispenza and his You Are the Placebo, Masaru Emoto doing the water molecule. Have you seen the water experiments that Emoto did? Brilliant
I've seen
stuff.
this one.
You can literally change the structure of water using sound and intention and stuff like that. So nowadays, I say to people intention, they go, oh yeah, I get that. But back then it was a tough nut to crack, as they say. But now, so the idea is that the sound that we create is part of the equation, but the intention of the sound that we create is equally a part of the intention. You put them together and whammo, you get the result, which from my level was always healing, trying to do good with it. Although I guess you could do some other stuff with it if you wanted.
Mm-hmm. Could I just pause you there, Jonathan? I'm really
Yeah, so
interested in the intention aspect of it because a lot of times when
yeah,
I hum, I don't really I'm just humming, right? And there's no kind of intention or
yeah,
directing my hum anywhere.
good.
So how do you go about generating intention? Is it like kind of visualization? Is it a mantra, a phrase? It's a feeling.
James, that's a very good question. I used to teach this too, so let me see if I can remember what I used to teach. But it was something like this. At one point, I'd have people visualize or think or feel what they would like to be projected. Oftentimes it's feeling, because oftentimes the thought alone is not enough. You need to be coming from the heart, but you sort of feel it. And then on the breath, you put that. And then, of course, tone, voice, whatever is breath made audible. The hum is breath made audible. So if you do it on the breath, but even that, I'm very much into being in the flow. And suppose you're making a sound and all of a sudden you think, oh, I forgot to put intentionality in it. Oh, does the intention have to chase after the sound? Am I going to be done? And it's just an overall holistic gestalt. So it just occurs. So on a level, it's mostly having the feeling, having whether it's a color or a geometric form or an emotion or whatever you're looking for, or a specific thing for healing. And oftentimes, I don't get, when I'm working with people, I don't necessarily get really specific about healing a condition. And more I do in terms of just creating betterment for the person, bringing them to harmony and peace, because sometimes people have brought on conditions for them to learn. It's just a thought. Does that make any sense at all?
No, it does. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, because I do like a lot of meditation, and I'm with people who practice metta, and we always talk about like how do you, loving kindness meditation. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but like so many people have different ways of cultivating, love and peace and compassion. So I just wanted to see, what your thoughts on that were.
Now, seemingly, one of the most powerful techniques for utilizing breath turned into sound as a loving kindness type of phenomena is the work of heart math. Are you familiar with them?
I've heard of them. Yeah.
I'll go through this very briefly, but it's very simple. You take some nice deep breaths, and sometimes you can either touch your heart or just focus your attention on your heart as you're breathing. So you breathe a little bit in and out through your heart, and then feel gratitude or appreciation. And that's all it basically takes. And then when the next breath, I like to have do a or or whatever, and then encode that with the sound is being encoded with that energy. And what that does, the heart brain coherence thing, it literally causes the heart and the brain to be synchronized together. And that's a blessing because if it's just the brain, it's one thing. If it's just the heart, but working together, it's a wonderful combination. And it seems to amplify our electromagnetic field anywhere from 50 to 500, even 5,000 times greater.
Goodness.
So this heart brain and but that of course is just one because I do a lot of you can see Tibetan stuff and I know the meditation it's called Tonglen in the
Uh-huh.
Tibetan tradition where you visualize a bodhisattva inside which is radiating others. It's so interesting. I'm just going to get this for a moment. The word love, which I love, but the word love is such a charged word that for a lot of people, they can't differentiate between love and perhaps certain things that may have caused them abuse, such as, sex or something like that. And therefore, being able to think of something that they're appreciative of, grateful for, whether it's a mountain stream or a pet or something, and that's sort of what you feel your heart with. A lot for some people, thinking about love causes them to contract because it's not the high level love that we may be talking about. Because there's a lot of imbalance on the planet, which has made the word love a loaded word. For
Uh,
high beings, compassion and love is great. For others, they're like, what does compassion mean? And love, oh God, I got to protect myself from that. But gratefulness and appreciation seems to be some of the key feelings that you can immediately share with people and they get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm also aware of Joseph Goldstein, who teaches a lot of meditation. He tries to emphasize the kindness aspect of loving kindness because the word love, as you say, comes with a lot of baggage, but everybody can kind of, understand and resonate with, just simple day-to-day kindness.
And I think my wife and I both think that compassion may be the most important aspect of anything that we can deal with on the planet right now. And we do a whole lot of work with that sharing. And but the first thing, of course, is what does compassion mean to you? And I mean, it's interesting in certain traditions. I have a dear Tibetan Lama friend who, we talk about this a lot, the importance of compassion. And I think the Dalai Lama simply said something like, if we can just be kind to each other. And Dalai Lama said that compassion is mandatory for the continued evolution of the human species. He may not have said it even that eloquently, but it's true. If we can begin to work together on you get a phenomenon of 1 plus 1 equals 3. Two people create like a third consciousness, et cetera. So you get an overall group gestalt, and we can overcome so many of the imbalances that have occurred on the planet working together. But what a real key, there's more divisiveness on the planet now than have ever experienced, and once again being compassionate to each other. And probably this involves sounds. I'm not getting that far away, but this involves sound. If you can program intention on sound, it doesn't have to be a sung sound or even a hum sound. It can be the conversational voice. We can use the conversational voice for healing simply by encoding kindness and compassion. Our words, just the very conversational words that we speak. One of the key ingredients, and I just got a book today. It came in. I've read it a long time ago. I got it for a friend, but it's called Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet by a monk named Thich Nhat Hanh. I don't know if
Oh
you've ever heard
yeah,
of him.
yeah, I know him.
And Andy and I were teaching something called a compassionate conversation. And I'm reading this book, and he basically has the same thing. He does it in terms of compassionate listening and whatnot. But I mean, one of the interesting things is we're so divided these days that we don't even listen to people finish what they're saying. We have an answer to them before they're speaking, and oh, we're going to tell them right then that we haven't even listened to what they said. We haven't even encoded that, and oh, that makes sense or whatnot. So with this and that, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. What if we listen, if we just listen to each other, you don't have to agree with the person, but allow them to speak and see how it resonates. There's an old Native American saying that, in order to know somebody, you need to walk a mile in their moccasins. And we're not even going near anyone else's moccasins these days. So, anyway, just a thought, the importance of compassion. And then the third one, and this is equally, I mean, I think they're all important. I think they're foundational in terms of sound, but I think they're also almost foundational in terms of life, is that we are all unique vibratory beings. Oftentimes, when we're teaching a workshop or whatnot, I'll ask an audience, how many of you are allergic to penicillin? And probably anywhere from 10 to 20% of an audience will raise their hand. I said, okay, if everything in the universe is in a state of vibration, then penicillin is a frequency or a set of frequencies. It's a vibration. And for 80% of you, it's healing, but for 20%, it's toxic. And I think that's a great metaphor for everything I have experienced on the planet. Nothing works for everybody. There is no magic frequency, there is no magic drug. One size does not fit all for anything, whether it's sound, nutrition, you name it. It just, I haven't found anything. I would like to say water, but then again, it depends upon the quality of the water. I like to say air works, but even the quality of the air is different and works for different people. So if we can understand that, then we can go, okay, everybody's different. We are. I just keep coming up more and more with this. I haven't actually met anybody, whether a scientist, a spiritual master, or whatever, who says, yeah, everyone is the same and we use this and it works. I just haven't found that because our DNA is different. Our harmonic structure is different. Our fingerprints are different. We're all slightly different. And therefore, we need to understand that you can't just go, hey, take the sound and call me in the morning, take this pill and call me in the morning, because nothing works the same way for everybody. Now, this is huge, particularly in the world of sound, because there are people who are going around going, oh, this is the frequency for love. This is the frequency for X, Y, or Z. And I go, yikes, really? That's such a self-limiting thought form. There's particularly one frequency that is going around, and I actually brought this frequency down to the planet, and then people immediately sees it and said, oh, it's a frequency of love. I said, no, it's not. If a mother is holding a baby and singing a lullaby, does she have to look at a guitar tuner in order to make sure she's singing in the right key in order to project love? How absurd is that? Think about that for a minute, because that's like, whoa, you know?
Yeah.
So on a level, also, people confuse emotional frequencies and love. They confuse. We talked about frequencies before. Oh, the all right. Sound travels as a waveform. This waveform is measured in cycles per second. That's called its frequency. And we hear from around 20 of these cycles per second, 20 hertz to around 20,000. Our friends in the ocean, dolphins can hear upwards of 180,000 cycles a second. For us, there's nothing going on, but dolphins can do it. So there's a huge range of sound, but a lot of people say, oh, I want to raise my frequency. Great. But they confuse it. Oh, therefore I need to listen to high sounds as opposed to low sounds. And that's absurd. A low sound has its purposes, a high sound has its purposes, but they're not related to feeling high or feeling low, being depressed. It's apples and oranges. Does this make sense to you?
No, it does. It does, Jonathan. Yeah, just to relate it back to humming, I know the way
Yeah.
you say we all kind of react differently with kind of sounds externally, but in
Yeah.
terms of humming, would you generalize the saying that maybe it's good for everyone and everyone has their own unique voice and sound, but what do you think?
Well, great question, James. Bottom line is that I've never met a person who, number one, couldn't hum. Problem with a lot of people have, oh, I can't make a sound. I can't do this and that. I can't make a X, Y, or Z. But I've never found anybody who couldn't hum.
Right,
Once I've been sort of shown some of the protocols. But at the same time, on a level, I never say really never because
right.
anything is possible. All right, let me just keep jumping to the last of the four pillars, which is silence is golden. And by that, I mean that silence is an aspect of sound. It's the yin to the yang of sound. And it is, from my perspective, the place where the two true shifts and changes occur when you're making sound and then you stop. The real assimilation of the frequencies comes into your body. A lot of people these days are so busy that they don't take the time to be in silence. And I know that you do. I know that you do because you do meditation stuff. And silence is the key point of that. So I really, Andy and I both really suggest that silence is so very, very important as being a part of the sound making process. And it took me about 20 years to actually discover that. It may sound crazy, but literally, I was so enamored with making sound and doing this and that I didn't stop. Go out. And once you stop, if you like the sound takes you, ground you. And once in silence, that allows the sound for you to travel in. There are traditions in a lot of the sacred sound programs, including like in the Hindu tradition, the Shabd yoga tradition, which is audible, silent sound where you just sit quietly and you listen to the sounds within and travel with them to higher planes of consciousness. So, once again, everything is vibration, intent is powerful. We are all unique vibratory beings, and silence is golden. I'm going to take a breath and let you ask
Okay,
them.
fantastic. No, I appreciate that, Jonathan. Yeah. So yeah, so many questions relating to that. One thing that came to mind actually when you were talking about love and compassion and how we all need to come together because they're all so polarized. Just bringing it back to humming specifically, I seen in your book that you had a section on that. Actually, when you come together as a group and you make sounds and you hum, that the effect is somewhat amplified. So I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Well, first of all, I'm saying my wife and I, Andi is her name, she co authored the humming effect with me, are officiating a wedding in a couple of days. And part of the whole thing we're going to do is going to have people hum together with the bride and groom in the middle of the circle. They're going to be circling that. And the reason we're doing the hum is basically some of these people are sort of fundamentalists. And I think if they would do an ohm, they would perceive the ohm as being a heathen sound. So the hum becomes this universal sound that, regardless of your tradition, you can't go, well, I'm not going to hum because it goes against my religious beliefs. No, you know. So I like that a lot. One of the great things about the hum, listen, just because I'm doing this and I always do it, a couple of the physiological benefits of hum, just for people who are listening. Number one, you lower your heart rate and respiration almost immediately within about 30 seconds to a minute. You start humming, doing, we call it conscious humming because it's not the same as humming zippity doo dah or a pop song. That's great, but this is like humming on one note, keeping your lips closed, humming on one note, uh, and doing it in such a manner that you do it about 3 or 4 times to just begin to feel the vibrations. But let me continue for a sec. So you get the release of melatonin, you get the release of endorphins, which are those wonderful self-created opiates. You get the release of nitric oxide, which has become huge these days, which is a vasodilator. It's also an antiviral. It's antiviral and antibacterial. So if you get any sort of nasty critter that's lodging in your nasal cavity before it goes into your body, if you just do conscious humming, it'll get rid of it. And increases heart rate variability and releases oxytocin, among other things. So people go, oh, if this does that, therefore they go, this is real. But again, there's something called the Yoga Sutras, which was the original foundational book, 4,000 years old, by a guy named Pantanjali's, and Sutra 1.27. And this is just sort of Goldman's synthesis of it, my soundbite. The original sound of creation was pranava, the humming of prana, the humming of energy. They had to give it a name, so they called it Om. So the Om actually comes from the hum. So the hum is a really powerful sacred sound. And when you hum together, it can be just extraordinary. Once again, it's such a universal sound. And the hum and the Om, if I go Om, it's mostly a hum with just a little bit of an Om. And I love it. But for some people, it's too charged for them to bring into their energy field. And I think sound healing should be for everyone.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Kind of on that as well, I was wondering, you mentioned in your book that, you're able to target different areas of your body when you
Yes.
hum. And is that kind of based on the intonality or kind of more intention?
Yowza, you hit it, sir. Exactly. Just a couple of days ago, I was in a very, very deep meditational space, and it was usually humming meditation. It's not all I do, but I was using the hum, and I was able to literally go from mm, and there's a slight little inflection there, going from here to here, but that's all it took for me. I didn't have to go. In other words, mostly it was the intentionality. And at that particular point, I was very, mm, I just did it there. And you could probably almost not hear any change in the tonality at all. Slight little change of inflection, and the vibrations went from here to here. And of course, I mean, I got to say, James, the more you work with the hum, the more adept you become at doing it.
Right.
So
Practice.
one great way for people to first do it is go, mm. Well, that's definitely that's very, very that'll be obvious to people because the vibrations, different vibrations will vibrate different parts of your body. If you do a mid-range and then a higher range go well, that's one thing. And you can then do a similar thing with the hum and then begin to realize that you can do this just with mostly your intention and a little bit of tonal inflection.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, no, that sounds good. I was wondering what would be considered like the minimum effective dose for humming to be beneficial? Like, would it be 5 minutes or I don't know
All
what you
right,
think?
so you can feel the hum 3 or 4 or 5 times. And listen, I'll do this with you, but I need to change. If you want to do a little humming thing with me,
Let's
all we
do
got
it.
to do is I got to change my original sound for musicians to go on so that I can hum and you can hear it because otherwise Zoom has got this wonderful noise filter and if it hears me do a hum, it'll chop me off after 2 or 3 seconds. So I just hopefully fixed it so it didn't. So I'm just going to go through the principles again with you. First of all, you check yourself out. Then you do some nice, slow, deep, and relaxed breathing. Doesn't have to be a whole lot, but just even a couple. You keep your lips closed. If you open your mouth, you're not humming. It's just it. You hum on one note, not a whole bunch. You don't do the 1812 overture. You hum at a comfortable pitch, okay? And so you don't strain yourself. And you hum for a minimum of 3, 4, 5 times. Then we'll be in silence. And since this is a podcast, we'll just do it 3 times together, okay? And then we'll be in silence for just a few minutes and just see if you can feel the vibrations. I'm sure you will. All right, so let's take a nice deep breath. Well, let me take a sip of licorice tea. All right, so taking a nice deep breath and releasing it. Taking another deep breath. And now, keeping your lips closed, taking a breath in and then humming for the first of 3 times together. So do this with me. Mm.
Mm,
And taking another nice deep breath and mm.
mm,
And just one more right now. Mm.
mm.
And just for a moment, take another breath in and just being in silence, just feeling any shifts and changes that may have occurred. And because I always find it not fun watching somebody else sit there and meditate. So we'll bring it back. But what did you feel?
It was just so peaceful, so calming. It
Yeah.
just very grounding.
And once people experience that, then it's real for them. And on a level, it doesn't matter if you're getting nitric oxide or lowering your heart rate, blood pressure. You can feel it. If you can feel it, then it's real for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, 5 minutes of humming, great. I love it, man. But the thing is, if you do 5 minutes of humming, you got to make sure that you have 5 minutes of silence sitting there because it can be such a powerful, almost psychotropic experience that I have known of people who will hum, try to get up to catch a bus and like be faint. So you
Right.
want to really have, yeah, totally. It's that powerful.
Wow, yeah. And do you have any suggestions about how people can maybe incorporate it into their daily life? It's not one of those things like going to the gym or like sitting down for an hour to meditate. It's always accessible and portable and
Always
available.
accessible. Most of the time, people can't even hear you hum,
Right.
and it's just great. And once again, the next step, of course, is adding intention to the hum. What do you want the hum for? Do you have a headache? Do you need to charge yourself? Do you want to relax yourself? Do you want to stimulate yourself? All these things are possible because there's so many different, if you like, neurochemicals that are being created, and our intentionality is just so very, very important. But don't
Mhm.
forget to be silent when you do it, and it's a powerful thing. So if you're in a situation where it doesn't somehow work, like I know a lot of people who do it driving, But if you start getting high from it, stop humming.
Yeah, there's some like safe spaces I found that you can do it. Like I got like two planes over here, and like you can do it like on public transport. No one, somebody could be sitting beside you, and they'll have no notion that you're humming very loud.
Totally, it's great, huh? You know?
Yeah, and also Jonathan, I'm curious about what your practice looks like now. Do you have like a formal period of time where you hum, or is it kind of just kind of integrated into your life in many ways?
I try to do incorporate it in, if you like, mindfulness meditations and whatnot. And also, anytime I start feeling stressed or have something that's a little bit there, just taking a moment. Even one hum, once you begin to do it, then you begin to feel almost an immediate effect. It affects you neurologically, it affects you sonically. The hum is the most powerful vibroacoustic sound that we can make. James, there are two ways that sound affects us. One is called psychoacoustics. That means that you hit the sound, goes into your ear, into your brain, affecting your heart, brain, respiration, nervous system. But the other is called vibroacoustics, and this is where the sound goes in to your body, into us on a cellular level. Here's an example of vibroacoustics where the sound is traveling down this into my body. The most powerful vibroacoustic sound that we can make is the hum, because as soon as you open your mouth, the sound begins to travel out, but as long as it's self-contained, it stays within the body. I don't know where you found the sound when we did the three little hums together, but I was feeling it very much in my face and um, cranial. How about yourself?
Me, it was kind of like my throat and on my
Yeah,
chest more
some
so.
people feel here there. So, it's interesting. It shifts and changes. And once again, our intent can really shift and change the soul.
Okay, fascinating. Yeah, no, I'm just conscious of your time, Jonathan. But something came up actually when you were talking about like we're unable to hear frequencies that are above a certain threshold. Like dolphins can hear like three or four times that we can. But what are your thoughts? I know we could probably do a total other podcast on this, but because it's something I was very conscious of before, like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all these kind of frequencies around us that our bodies are bathing in and that we can't necessarily hear or feel straight away. But what do you think is the cumulative effect of?
I was just watching a podcast on right now or 5G, right? A lot of it. They're
Hmm.
developing 6G. And I'm very, very cautious of that. 5G is here, but there's a lot of data to indicate that it's not necessarily beneficial. And yet, at one point, we did try to stop it from happening here in this area. We went to different meetings, and the people who were there said, "No, you can't do anything. This is written into the law, et cetera, et cetera." The only way that you could change it is if the 5G tower was architecturally undistinguishable, unworkable with the environment, but not the vibrations of what it was doing. How absurd that is. And that's why with a hum, right, you're able to get yourself vibrating. It's another way of getting to the source. So if you can't stop this stuff, maybe you can become grounded enough where it just doesn't, infiltrate you the way if you were just really sitting there, oh, yeah, it'll get you even more. So the hum or any sound, but particularly the hum, really good for creating that self-contained aspect of amplifying your immunological system, your auric field, your whole physical body. Very
Awesome.
good
Yeah.
question, though,
It
but
kind of
it's
inoculates you from the frequency in a way. Humming.
or at least it assists. We're living in such a strange time, and
I
we need to find our center. And oftentimes, working with something as simple as the hum can really be a wonderful way of finding your source.
For sure, yeah, and it's something you don't hear about at all. There's no money in it per se, and it doesn't get a lot of airtime. So I just appreciate you guys so much for getting the word out there and making it, mainstream in a way. And I think, yeah, you're the only person who wrote a book on the effects of humming, if I believe.
And not that things like tuning forks aren't wonderful tools, and we have it, but you're right. Unfortunately or unfortunately, the hum is something everybody's got it, and we're trying to give it away and sort of allow people to, hey, you've got this tool that you can utilize for really making you, I mean, first of all, everybody is so stressed out on this planet.
Right.
And this is an incredible tool that you can be, as my wife Andi is a psychotherapist. She says you can be your own therapist just with the hum. And then people try this and go, wow, it works.
Hmm.
Now, once again, there are going to be some people that it may not work because I don't know why, but it's all possible. For most people, doing just the simple techniques of doing a few hums, they're going to feel it because it has a physiological response. I don't really necessarily care what the scientific
Right.
data says, but you can feel it. And if you feel it, now once again, you need to couple it with deep breathing, which is really huge and important. If you like I'm not going to get into it, but there's called the whole um, vagus. There are a lot of people into the vagus nerve right now.
Right.
One of the major ways that you can deal with it, there are two major ways of dealing with the vagus nerve. One is through deep breathing, and the other is through humming. And you combine them together, and it really works really nicely.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I before I even kind of was knew humming was somewhat good for you, I'm one of those guys that used to get into like a cold plunge in the morning, first thing in the morning. And you know, when you get in there, you try to relax your nervous system and take like deep breaths. But I would actually kind of unconsciously like hum on my exhale because you're extending your exhale and you're
Yeah.
like kind of down regulating your nervous system, right? So I just did that intuitively. So then when I came across your work, I was like, oh, it makes sense, right?
And thank you. And this, of course, is just the first step. I'm going to suggest that out of all the sounds, really, the hum is breath made audible, and that we can use it in so many different situations in terms of move. I won't even get into it, but I probably next year sometime, my wife and I are finally going to be doing a an online course on the different levels of humming, and I'm really looking forward to doing it because it's this is just the first step, but it's a major step. There is, as you may know, a phenomena in the yogic tradition called Brahmari pranayama,
Hmm.
which is basically nothing more or less than humming. You basically use a mantra and create a mudra, but I don't even find that's necessary. If you just close your eyes, just hum and put some intentionality in it, that's all you need to do.
No, beautiful. So simple yet so profound and effective.
Yes, when my son was very young, he used to say, simple but effective. I said, okay, you got it.
That's it. Listen,
Yeah.
Jonathan, it's been such a treat talking to you, and thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I encourage anyone to check out your book and engage in humming.
Our website is www.healingsounds.com. We got lots of great free downloads because our purpose is to help bring people a lot of information, a lot of tools for transformation and other stuff. And just be aware this February 14th, 2026, we're doing the 24th annual World Sound Healing Day, where we sound with the energy of compassion and love to shift and interface with the Gaia matrix, the field of the planet, to help bring, if you like, enlightenment and evolution. And the key to that, of course, is sounding with, we like to work with the ah sound for that, but sounding with the energy of compassion. And if people can just a little bit become more compassionate, I think we got a salvation for the planet.